In New Zealand's aquaculture sector, salmon farming is a relative newcomer. But it's growing rapidly, and research and development across all aspects of production is a priority. This week, we learn about work at the Cawthron Institute on the dietary requirements of farmed king salmon. We speak with Peter West about how he changed his approach to dairy farming and rediscovered his enthusiasm and passion for the sector. And we visit Rotocaddy Reserve that's gone from what was described as a bit of a mess to a local treasure, thanks to a rural community effort. 2 years ago, aquaculture company New Zealand King Salmon began a project to determine the specific dietary requirements of farmed king salmon. $5.2 million will be invested during 4 years of research. The project partners are New Zealand King Salmon, Seafood Innovations, the Cawthron Institute, the Nelson Marlborough Institute of Technology, and Danish aquaculture feed company Biomar.
A key thing for this project is to further improve on the diet that's developed for our salmon species. So New Zealand farms king salmon, so that's different from the rest of the world, which mainly farms Atlantic salmon. So we're only about 0.7% of world farmed salmon. And all of the diet development has been made for Atlantic salmon, or all of the research is focused on Atlantic salmon. So what we're trying to do here is to develop a diet that's specific to our king salmon species. Diet's the most important factor in our production system. It's about 60 to 70% of our cost, so it's absolutely critical we get it right. The Atlantic salmon diet is probably 90% there. There's always little intricacies in the king salmon diet that we've got to address, and that's what this SIL-funded project is going to focus on. New Zealand King Salmon identified a need to further develop our diets. So we've got funding from SIL, Seafood Innovations Limited, and Cawthron is the science provider that we're using. They're locally based out here in Nelson. We get fantastic access to water and a good system here. We've run 3 trials at the moment, and we're getting some really good results from those trials. These trials will look at developing the best growth rates and feed conversion rates. We're also looking at things like the carcass quality of the fish, making sure the fish has got that nice, vibrant, pinky orange look, nice fat lines, which all impart the important texture. We complete a trial probably every 2 to 3 months, depending on the size of the fish. The learnings from that trial go straight back to the feed manufacturers, and they will make alterations and tweaks to their formula. So we get the benefits of the trial as this trial's been carried out. When manufacturing diets, cost of production is a really important factor in how quick the animal grows, but also vitally important is the environmental effects of those diets. So by feeding high energy diets, we minimise the wastage and maximise the amount of protein or the amount of meat that the animal puts on. We source all of our feed from Australia and Chile. The New Zealand industry is really too small to support a feed producer. As the industry grows, I guess we'll have more opportunity there and one may pop up. At the end of this trial, Kevin and the team at Cawthron will deliver us a diet that will best support the growth of our fish at lowest feed conversions, minimal environmental discharge, and will ensure that the carcass quality or the eating attributes of our salmon is maintained.
We have a 9-tank system, water recirculating. So the water goes around through biological filters, mechanical filters, and back into the tank. So we don't use a vast amount of water. We haven't got this huge flow through. But that also gives us a lot of control. We can control the oxygen, the temperature, the water quality, and things like that. And so we know what the fish are in. The 9 tanks allows us to do 3 different trials simultaneously, 3 different foods. And so what we can do is run 3 tanks on a specific diet. And then with those 3 tanks, each of the 3 tanks can be compared to each other. We work quite closely with New Zealand King Salmon in terms of developing the foods. We also have consultants who develop diets. And so what we're looking at is the proteins and the origin of those proteins, making up the recipes to balance the amino acids and the different proteins and the lipids, which provide energy as well as other carbohydrates and things. And in that way, we can change things subtly and then run these trials simultaneously in the same water with fish from the same cohort and of known genetics. And in that way, we can assess how they're converting that food into flesh, how much energy they're using or wasting. The feces, we check that as well to see how much is digested when it comes out. The king salmon out in the Pacific Ocean would normally hunt down other fish, and that's what it would eat. But now that we have it in a captive and a culture situation, we have to provide the optimal food for the fish health, for the fish to grow economically, and for reduced environmental impact. The project's been running for just under 2 years now, and we have definitely made gains. We've improved the food conversion ratio, which I refer as the FCR, in the fish and compared to commercial diets. But I do think that we've got we can still make further improvements. On a day-to-day basis, what we'll do is to take pellets from each of the diets and we weigh out a specific amount. We then feed over a set time period to the fish to make sure that they're fed to satiation. At the end of the trial, what we'll do is crowd the fish, we anaesthetize them, and then we weigh and measure each individual fish. We collect feces from each fish. The feces is used for analysis to identify what and how effectively they're digesting the food. The weight and length will give us a condition factor, and then from that we can work out how much food has been fed across all those fish to get the food conversion ratio. So, for argument's sake, they're fed 1.5 kilos of food to make a kilo of fish. We have a parallel MB funding, which we've just received from government in October last year, which is looking into far greater depth into things like the genetics of the fish and the gut flora and bacteria and things like that, the real specifics of how king salmon function physiologically. And so that'll run parallel to this, and then each will provide answers to the other, and further research, I'm sure, will be generated as a result.
When we return, we meet Peter West, who recognised the need to rethink his approach to dairy farming and is now reaping the rewards of the changes he's made. Peter and Karen West milk around 400 cows on 160 hectares at Kahili on the Taranaki Plains. Between them, they've won a number of farming awards. But despite the awards and outward appearances of success, Peter describes himself at the time as being tired and unhappy.
On this farm, we've been here 30 years. We're milking around 400, 420 cows here through a 44 side, and it's got a ProTrack drafting system, and it just makes life a lot easier. We went contract milking across the road in 50-50 here at 20, and then 3 years later, we bought half the farm, and we leased the other half, and then 5 years later we bought the rest of it, and then 3 to 5 years later we've leased neighbouring properties or bought neighbouring properties, so we haven't had to move very far. It's been great coming from a non-farming background, because even 30 years ago people were saying, don't go farming, there's no future in farming. And I just looked at the people that were making it happen and thought, they're making it happen, what are they doing? So we made friends with them, we followed them, we idolised them, and then over time you become them. And it's no different today. There's young people out there share milking, equity partners. Our manager's bought a neighbouring block and we leased it back off him, so he's also a landlord. So there's still a great future. It's just different to how it was, and the future's going to be different again, which is really exciting. You know, at 15, I had this vision of owning a farm and marrying this girl and having a successful relationship. So it was always at the back of my mind, and I was always looking at stuff to achieve that. What I didn't have was a set of values behind that, and I didn't understand that at the time, a set of behaviours, why I do the things that I do, and above and below the line behaviours. So we had to create a new vision. And the vision was, why are we milking cows? And I've seen plenty of people leave the dairy industry and go and do something else. And they still took that same attitude with them. And then they were getting sick and tired of that industry. And then they were bouncing over here. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I want to sort my shit out first and understand why I'm not enjoying what I'm doing anymore. And, you know, I was getting really tired, as we all do. Then I'd get sulky. And I've sulked for years when things don't go well. So Karen did a couple of courses with Corinne Walker at Coach Approach Leadership, and she started changing on how she viewed the world and saw things. And she said, you've got some frustration and stored up anger, and that's why you're sulky. And I just said, you got to be kidding. I'm a nice guy. I mean, I've always got a smile on my face. I always make people happy. And that was the issue. Trying to be the best father, the best husband, the best community leader, the best farmer. And I didn't think much of myself. I never have. And the realisation of that, and to actually tell myself, actually, I'm a good person. I've done this and this and this. I should be really proud and thankful of that. We have a vision for our farm, and I have a vision for myself, because a vision gets me out of bed, it gives me purpose. And it's about growing. I don't want to retire. I still want to grow and develop myself. I still want a purpose till the day I die, and that revolves around helping people. Because if you help people, it makes you feel really good. So I've got this vision to grow, but you have to live it. And when you're really living it, people can see it's authentic, it's true, and so I'm starting to share it. And I've written a couple of articles, and they've made national magazines. I've put a Facebook page out that's, some of my posts have got a couple of thousand likes because it's starting to connect. It's resonating with people. I've had people, lots of messages and say, I thought I was the only one that thought like that. And that scared me to share this stuff. And then when other people were saying, hey, that's me, now I don't mind, and I'm making a difference. So where I'm at now is I'm in a completely different mindset, and part of that's to do with getting rid of my frustration and my sulkiness, and understanding when I get sulky, looking at myself and saying, I'm actually sulky, I'm really tired, I can do something about this, and taking some time and doing something about it. And because I'm not going to go inside and dump it on my wife or my kids or my staff. It's my stuff, it's my shit. So we're doing silage.
Shed inspection.
Yeah.
Silage.
Yeah.
Cows.
Yeah.
Life has been really busy over the years with the kids, and been involved in a lot of community stuff, as well as working the farm and doing family stuff. And it's, I think, 3 years now since the kids have all left, and thought that it was time. That was the reason why I started doing some of these courses. It was my time to do some learning, and before that was always tied up with the farm. So it's made a huge impact on our relationship, and just communication has been the key, and just our working relationships and our home relationship is just so much better. And we understand each other, and things like when you're tired, and I always like to be part of the farm. I like to be part of all the decisions. I always want to know what's going on. And once upon a time, Peter would think that I was questioning him, or, why was he doing this or why was he doing that? It was never a threat. I just wanted to be part of it, and I wanted to know what was going on. We're an amazing team, and we just work so well together, and just that working relationship has just become so much better. We understand each other's behaviours better. If we're tired, and we will just, if we start to talk about something and it's not going so well, we will just recognise that and say, oh, we'll just leave this and come back to it. Or, we will pull each other up on things and just say, well, I think we're tired. I think we can talk about that another time. Or, so it's just made an amazing change. Made it so much more enjoyable. We love what we do.
We'll be back soon to find out about a rural community effort that's making a big difference to a scenic reserve. The Rotocaddy Scenic Reserve, including Lake Rotocaddy, is Crown land, looked after by the local district council. For many years, the reserve has been used as a recreational space for boating, camping, walking and picnics. It was also used as something of a dumping ground, and by 2003 it was, in local farmer and contractor Joe Menzies' words, a mess.
We farm on the northern side of the reserve. We've been there since 1890s, so we've got a long background with it. We've looked down on it and seen the general decline of the bush and the rata skeletons starting to show through the bush and that sort of thing. It was gazetted a reserve in 1886. It started on this side to be filled for farming, and then they suddenly realised they probably shouldn't, so they took the land that the guys had felled on this side and gave them some other land, and then this has since regenerated. I run a contracting business with drain diggers, etc., and we'd get a call up to come down here to remove dead cars that vandals had brought down and looted and torched. We were down here one day having a clean up, and we thought we need to do one better than this. So from there we met with the community board and called a public meeting, and from there, the rest is history really. Out of the public meeting we had 14 of us that were keen to do something, had no idea what something was going to be down here, and from there the committee was formed. We decided to do some pest work, which was to raise $6,500 to kill some possums, and yeah, it just snowballed. The community just brought on to what we were doing. The committee grew up and became a trust, which then meant we could more professionally fund it, and then slowly the fence discussion started to evolve, and that's all it was to start with. There was not one of our goals as such. It soon became one, so we then funded the fence with help of local funding agencies, and yeah, next thing we're building the fence. The community has largely put $7.5 million into this so far, and it's just growing. The local farmers have really brought in well to what we're doing, to the tune of actually gifting 12.5 hectares of surrounding land, which meant we could get our fence up onto a good stable platform. That 12.5 hectares was part of is part of the catchment in here, so it gets us the whole catchment actually under lock and key to the trust, and yeah, they've just brought right into it now with the Halo project, killing pests off 2,500 hectares around us. Access is fine. Yeah, it's a very whole buy-in.
It's a ring-fenced sanctuary, full pest inclusion fence, which includes baby mice. The fence is 8.2 kilometres long. The site area is 230 hectares. We have the largest lake and wetland habitat within a fenced sanctuary in the country of about 17 hectares inside. Importantly, this is a place for the community to come and enjoy, and formation of the trust was between the conservation and the recreational needs, so it's really important that we provide for that too. So farmers over summer will come out and go water skiing in between milking, for example, you know, and that's great. There's a really good passion there for the site. The challenges are that every vehicle that comes in is a vector for rodents especially. You know, we've seen plenty of examples of rats being found nesting in cars, mice droppings being found in cars. So as a staff and a volunteer community, we trap, we poison around our vehicles at home, we talk to visitors all the time, we give them free rat traps to take home, and we trap intensively inside the sanctuary. So you drive down the road, you're surrounded by trapping. We have eradicated 12 pest species. We've dealt with periodic incursions of rodents. The ecology is full of life. The invert population is abundant. The understory of the forest has recovered. It's a several hundred-year story to get that full recovery, but we're seeing really good evidence of that coming back. We're discovering new things. You know, in the time of the project, we've identified 4 different lizard species. We're finding Peripatus, 500 million year old carnivorous slug, which is native. It's a really special guy, right? And we have begun restoring, I guess, some of the avifauna. So we've started reintroducing species lost, not only to the sanctuary here, but to the region. And the plan is to do much more of that. So our vision, I guess, is the region. This is our education centre. We deliver an environmental education program from early childhood through to senior secondary. So we do a number of NCEA units with high schools in the region. The Taranaki, or the North Island saddleback, we reintroduced to Taranaki in 2014. Been extinct in the region for about 150 years, and after 2 breeding seasons, now moving into the 3rd breeding season, numbers are just ballooning. It's fantastic, you know, really, really successful. One of the key things that's happened in the community is that going from a story, how's your Kiwi project going? We love Kiwi too. Saddle, what? All of a sudden people are coming to us now saying, how are your saddleback? You know, aren't they great? And so we're having that conversation, introducing people to the birds that they should know. We've had North Island robin reintroduce itself. and start to breed. And kereru, tui, bellbirds, so forth and so on, the warblers that we're hearing constantly at the moment, tomtits, you know, they're all dime a dozen now, and that's been a significant change. We are predominantly a voluntary organisation. Our trust, our committee are all volunteers. Yes, there's a small staff employed, but the numbers are huge. We have in the region of sort of 20 to 40 volunteers that I would call regular or semi-regular. There's a huge pride in what the collection of volunteers have achieved. The whole community is proud of having this success story. It's born through hard work, and the volunteers demonstrate their love day by day, turning up again to do some fairly unglamorous work in the bush.
I'm a practical, sort of sustainable conservationist, I would say, that's also farming. I've got a belief that we need to be trying to make conservation work within a community and work alongside actual business. And in that case, that's farming for me and agriculture as a whole. The place is fresh and green, the bush is a beautiful colour. There's birds here now that the Trust has brought back with the community's help that weren't here then. It's just alive and really neat to be part of that.
For more on these and other stories, visit our website. Get there via tvnz.co.nz. You can also watch this or previous episodes on TVNZ On Demand using the keyword rural delivery. Next week, we learn about research that led to a new acne treatment made from milk proteins. We visit iconic Southland property Mount Linton Station to find out about their extensive hill country pasture development. And we discover the genetics program that made Mount Linton a winner in the 2016 Sheep Industry Awards. Thanks for watching. We hope to see you again next time. This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.